bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore, a professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, good afternoon, and welcome to the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. You can join the conversation for the next hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388, 7-297-8388. And when you text that, it appears here in the studio on a screen in real time, and we try to work it into the conversation. So we know a lot of you can't call in the middle of work or whatever, but there's absolutely a way for you to participate in the show, and you can do that with the text line or call in 508-871-7000. The station does stream on the TuneIn app like thousands of other stations do too. So you can always take us anywhere. I love that feature. I put it on my phone, in and out of the car. It doesn't matter. Or you can listen, of course, terrestrial at 8:30 a.m. on the dial. And don't forget, the show is turned into a podcast and distributed wherever you get your podcasts. So that could be Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Play, etc. So you can do it that way as well. Reminding you folks that we just dropped this week's edition of the Weekly Report, which you can find at theweeklyreport.online. ff.org, and I posted to my Facebook page as well in joemangishow.com. So all kinds of ways to listen, all kinds of ways to watch the show as well. Today, behind the glass back at HQ, flying the board, we do stream the show, not just streaming it audio on TuneIn and at the station, WCRNradio.com, but I stream it on all these social media platforms, the station's Facebook page, YouTube channel, my Facebook, my X account, LinkedIn profile, Twitch TV, and we do stream live to Rumble. So multiple ways to listen and join me in the virtual studio here on the Joe Mangiacotti Show Thursday afternoon, 1 o'clock. Tomorrow, 1 o'clock. Hey, tomorrow, beginning of the Labor Day weekend. That kicks it off. I'm not on Fridays. The Carr Brothers come in at 1 o'clock on Fridays, and they do their great show, the Carr Brothers Show. That's worth checking out. So I hope you have fantastic plans for the Labor Day weekend. I can't believe how fast the summer went by. So I hope you have some great plans. You'll be tuning in to Mike Wade and Wellness Wave Radio, all live editions. Hank Stoltz will be live Monday morning on actual Labor Day. So great weekend all around coming up. Now, yesterday on the air, shortly before I came on the air, we had this horrendous shooting in Minnesota, and the facts were still rolling out on air. Some of you were messaging and calling the station as the news was breaking, and more facts and details were released. But yesterday, on the 27th of August, during a welcome back to school mass at the Annunciation Catholic Schools Church in Minneapolis, southern Minneapolis, 23-year-old Robin Westman, name that she took, opened fire through stained glass windows, killing 2 children almost instantly, an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, injuring 17 others, including 14 children, 3 elderly parishioners who were there praying as well. Now, Westman, who died by suicide at the scene, was armed with a rifle, shotgun, and pistol, and we knew that when I went on the air yesterday. Now, they were, and I didn't know this when I first went on the air, they were legally purchased. And authorities discovered very disturbing content posted online. He had a YouTube channel, a manifesto, and very hateful messages, sketches of the church, and violent ideations. he did his research. The FBI is investigating the attack as a hate crime and domestic terrorism. And medical teams report that all the injured children, they are in fact expected to survive, thank God, with several already released from the hospital. And among the stories of terror, a very powerful act of bravery stood out when a 10-year-old student shielded his friend from bullets, saving his life while taking shotgun blasts to the back. 10 years old. Local and national leaders, including Mayor Jacob Frey, Governor Tim Walz, condemned the violence, called for gun control, as you'd expect. And bizarrely enough, took this moment of all the times to underscore the need to protect marginalized communities from being unfairly stigmatized. Their call. This horrific shooting at a place meant for worship and learning shatters more than just a school classroom. It ruptures the foundation of the community. 2 young lives were lost in a moment of extraordinary tragedy, and many more have been physically and emotionally wounded. Westman's carefully premeditated actions, including the online content, sketches, and the arsenal of weapons, suggest a deeply rooted and complex rage. Not one directed at the church, but seemingly born of a personal turmoil and broader social fractures. The choice to strike on the first mass of the school year amplifies this cruelty, folks. Children gathered in prayer, a setting meant to invoke peace, and instead became a backdrop for violence. In response, the community's resilience shines through. First responders did their job, saved lives. Friends shielded friends. Families gathered. Schools and officials mobilized resources, mourned collectively. Political leaders issued statements, but insist that words must now be matched by action, particularly on gun safety and mental health interventions. Very different issues, folks. Now, this tragedy cannot stand as yet another statistic. It must awaken us to the need for a systemic change. And I'd say that would be enhancing school safety, certainly addressing mental health access and evaluations, preventing extremist ideations through early interventions. Minnesota has red flag laws, a lot of them. And of course, fostering community solidarity. Now, when children are targeted at a place of spiritual sanctuary, every institution shares the responsibility to ensure that it never happens again. And I know people who have connected to synagogues and other religious institutions, specifically synagogues, have spent the last several years hardening their targets, taking in preventive measures and security. We've had some horrific tragedies at synagogues and other places of worship. When are we going to do that as a whole to the schools? These 2 children, 8 and 10, killed in the pews while they were praying. 14 other children were injured. Now, Robin Westman, 23 years old, died by suicide by his own hand. No prior criminal record. Weapons were legally purchased. But had a lot of issues, even writing and saying at times, because transgender female, that he didn't want to be a female. He didn't feel like dressing girly, but he didn't feel like a man. And the parents, because from Robert to Robin at 17 did a legal name change, with the mother writing, my teenage daughter doesn't, or son, I don't know if she put son, my teenager doesn't wants to identify as a female, signed off on the name change. And it went through, of course. So now the FBI is investigating this incident as a potential hate crime. Do you think we can take the potential off of that and investigate it as a hate crime and as an act of domestic terrorism? At least they're getting that one right. Now, what's been left behind online, YouTube specifically, videos in a manifesto, and it featured this hateful imagery. And what it got me was the church sketches. And he attended this school. The weapons had writing on it. He had clips taped together. Reference to ideology-driven violence. Specifically, I don't think he liked anyone. He seemed to hate everyone. About killing Trump and hating Jews. Guy didn't like anyone. But what's so wonderful in this horror is, despite the terror, those selfless acts occurred. A child shielded a friend. Teachers and staff helped protect students. First responders acted very quickly. Unfortunately, the hospitals report all injured children will survive. Several have been released already. Mayor Jacob Frey urged the city not to scapegoat the trans community. They have to make sure they step up there. But I think the fact that this was another transgender school shooter actually started making people ask questions. But we got to take the first break here. We're coming up to on the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show at AM 830 WCRN. You can join the conversation for the rest of the hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. And don't forget, I am streaming on social media, Facebook, X, LinkedIn profile, Twitch TV, and of course to Rumble. We'll be back in 2 minutes and 2 seconds, folks. Stick with us.
Looking for a fuel and food stop that truly stands out? Experience the Yatco difference. At Yatco, we're dedicated to bringing you the best customer service, the highest quality products, and a commitment to making your life on the go easier. Yatco has 15 convenient locations across central Massachusetts, and now our newest spot at 75 Quonsigamut Ave in Worcester. Yatco, where every stop keeps you going.
Looking for a station that brings you all sides of the story? Tune in to 50,000 watt powerhouse WCRN, where the left and the right meet in the middle. Whether you lean left, lean right, or just want to stay informed, WCRN has you covered with diverse voices, lively debates, and thought-provoking discussions. From politics and health to pop culture, you'll hear it all right here. Radio Central, where opinions from both sides come together for the conversations that matter. From the center of the dial, the center of New England, and the center of information, AM 830, WCRN, Radio Central.
Junk piling up, garage bursting at the seams. It's time to call in the mighty at Mighty Movers. They don't just move, they remove. Their junk removal and clean out services are the fastest, easiest way to reclaim your space without lifting a finger. Whether it's yard waste, old furniture, garage cleanouts, or even hoarder cleanup, they've got the muscle and the mission to get it done safely and affordably. Selling your home or just tired of the clutter? They do offer full property cleanouts, demolition, and furniture delivery too. One call clears it all. Proudly serving Marlborough, Boston, Worcester, Framingham, and beyond. They're Central Mass's cleanup crew with a can-do attitude. Call 978-793-6165 or visit MightyMoversMA.com. MightyMoversMA.com. Mighty Movers. They bring the might so you don't have to lift a thing. All right, folks, welcome back here to the second segment of the Thursday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Reminding you, folks, that you can join the conversation. Lines are open and available at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Text line also 617-297-8388. Appears here on the screen in real time. And don't forget, we do stream the show from the virtual studio we have here. So if you go to Facebook on the station or Joe Mangi Show, X account, or Rumble, you can also watch and listen to the show in real time. So people are saying, this is a stark reminder of the urgent need for a comprehensive gun safety policy. Every single time a tragedy like this happens, and it seems more on the left, but although I got to say something, Trey Gowdy was surprising me on Fox yesterday because he starts talking about how often are we going to let this in gun control. And I can't understand how you can understand those people who keep calling for gun control every time there's, and that's it. Just take more guns away, make it harder, take the ammunition away. Again, I don't know how to say it plainer. The people who follow those rules aren't usually the people you have to worry about. And there are red flag laws, like in Minnesota. Now, this guy, this 23, I'm not going to call him a kid. He had a lot of issues. And I'm not talking just the transgender. Although dysphoria has other side effects. Look, and I think that because this is another transgender school shooting, never thought I'd have to say that in those words in that order, but it has started to question, well, wait a minute, what drugs are you taking? And I think it's a valid question. It's a valid question. Look, I've always said, these doctors who do the mutilation on these sex change operations on minors, first of all, the parents need to do some explaining, I think, why they would permit that. I mean, when you think about it in the big picture of things, we don't trust teenagers with really any decisions. We only let them drive by 17 because we don't want to drive them around anymore. But the car rental companies won't rent them a car till they're 25. So what do they know that we don't know? But you're going to let them make a life-altering decision that's really, honestly, irreversible and resulting most often in genital mutilation at 16 or 17. We don't let them buy liquor till they're 21. We don't let them vote till they're 18 for good reasons. Brains are still developing. They haven't reached the maturity levels. Once they're adult, they can lead their lives whatever way they want. But I've always said this on this particular issue, folks, is, again, follow the money. When a young person walks into that doctor's office looking for treatment for dysphoria, that doctor is seeing maybe the second home or the boat, because you're talking about constant medical care for the rest of your life and hormones and drugs for the rest of their lives. And that is a lot of money. And this character even referenced the hard place that they were in, because they didn't always feel like a female and he didn't feel like a man. And he said, and I wish I hadn't done this, and I can't afford this. So price was an issue. And then the drugs, that the hormone imbalance, you're chemically altering this person at a very young age. And I don't think that's the smartest thing. But you know who might have something to say on this? Who might be able to offer some clarity on this? From Wellness Rave Radio right here on the weekends is Phil George. And Phil is a biochemist, and he understands this far greater than I do. Let me bring into the conversation. Hey, Phil. Good afternoon. Happy
Joe.
Labor Day weekend to you, Phil.
You too. It looks like it's going to be. And guess what? The gas prices are the lowest they've been in a long time. I wonder why that is.
Drill, baby, drill is the short answer. So can you offer any guidance or advice? Because I got to tell you, if you had asked me on, beginning of the week or 2 days ago, does transgender process have anything to do with mass shootings? I'd say that's probably a little bigoted. But now another one, I have to say, well, wait a minute. Have we examined the drugs that happen, the chemical changes in the body, the need and dysphoria for attention? Does it cause violence? As a biochemist, can you offer any guidance to this?
Right, absolutely. A couple of things. One thing is actually approximately 1% of the U.S. population is transgender. So that's obviously a very low number. And if you put the shootings into it, the odds of those two things coming together are pretty low. So that's just statistics. But the other big issue is, you mentioned before, Joe, is kids being able to make a choice. So a little bit of neurology here. So basically, a kid doesn't really, the brain's not fully developed until they're at least 21 years old, could be even later. So their prefrontal cortex, your reasoning part of your brain is not developed. So I don't know about you, Joe, but I can think about all the stupid stuff I did before I was 21 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm
Thank God
looking
we didn't have the
now.
internet in those days, Phil.
Yeah. So the other thing is, I know now why, because my brain wasn't fully developed. I was running off of my monkey mind, my monkey brain, and
The lizard brain side, yeah.
The lizard brain, yeah. So remember from the old things with the cartoons, you had the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other one.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
Unfortunately, until the age of 21, the devil is basically talking in your ear. So it's for you to make a decision, basically, to say that, I'm this or I'm that. And the other thing is, Joe, with kids, they want a lot of attention. So they want attention, and they see their friends getting all this attention because they identify as a furry or something else, and they're going to go to it. But they're going to look back when they're 23, 24 years old and thinking, what the hell was I thinking, But allowing these kids or having these doctors make a change like that, and the other old adage from the chiffon, margarine company, it's not nice to fool with Mother Nature. So hormones, as a biochemist, hormones are extremely, extremely powerful. I'll give you a good example. My daughter, once a month, she'd come to me and she'd say, I got to watch out, Dad. I'm going to be in werewolf mode for the next week. Watch out, because her hormones are all over the place. But when you start injecting hormones in somebody that's biologically a male or biologically a female, you're really messing with Mother Nature then, because you don't know what the hell's happening to your brain. And I think I mentioned before, there was a famous case out of San Francisco called it was a really well-known movie with Sean Penn called Milk, where Harvey Milk got shot by this kid. They got the kid off because he
the Twinkie defense, right?
Twinkie defense.
Yeah.
It's on the law books, Joe. It's on the law books.
Yeah.
And so your brain, and obviously, if you're messing hormones in your brain, you're injecting hormones, you're moving hormones all around, and plus you have your frontal cortex hasn't even been developed yet. You're really messing with a very, very dangerous, toxic, toxic soup there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I got to be honest. A couple of days ago, I would have poo-pooed that if somebody had suggested it. But given what yes, about 1%, we have incredible activism for such a minute part of the population. I'm not saying there shouldn't be any activism or rights or anything, but you know what? Rights already exist. It's already illegal, right, to be discriminatory and so forth. But to have this number of shootings that we've had recently by transgender younger people, given the percentage of the population they are, the number of shootings, yet I do have to say, well, wait a minute, we have to roll this back. We need to look at what are we doing to them other than the physical surgical part that might be happening. And a lot of people never have, in the vernacular commonly referred into this, as you would know, Phil, is top surgery, bottom surgery, meaning that some say transgender females might have the top surgery, but never the bottom, meaning they leave the genitals born with intact. But some actually go the full Monty, if you will. But they start with the hormonal treatment and the drug treatment much earlier, long before any actual surgery is done. And they're supposed to also go through a period of analysis and seeing a psychiatrist long before they get anywhere near that. I don't know. I think they kind of skip that a little bit or don't really spend the time if you look at the records and the speed at which some of these operations are done. And then we get into, of course, being steered and directed in that direction, right? And so now I do say, wait a minute, should we be studying this? Should we be studying what are we doing chemically to these young people when we start injecting them? And to your use of the term, it's not nice to fool Mother Nature. And we are messing with Mother Nature at this point. And I understand the argument. They feel like they're born in the wrong body. But yes, that's dysphoria, and there's ways that we can treat that. But again, I say I don't know about that now. And I've always said follow the money, right? Because they're looking at years and years for the rest of their life, they're on treatment. Phil, we're against the clock. A final thought you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, again, I think, first of all, as you know, Joe, the other problem is a lot of schools were hiding this from their parents.
Yes,
and sending them in. So the parents didn't even have input into this. So this is changing now. But I think you have to be at least, I'd say, 21 years old before you should be allowed to do that.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that on the other side of the break. Phil, thank you for calling in. Appreciate it. Great expertise there. That's Phil George. Listen to him Saturday and Sunday mornings for Wellness Wave Radio. Back in 2 and 10, folks. Stick with us. Back on the other side.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spearn. Here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. Partly to mostly sunny today with some increasing high thin clouds. Highs in the mid and upper 70s will be seasonable today. Tonight turns a little bit humid, and tomorrow you're going to find it mild with 70s, but we've also got some stormier weather on the way. Lots of dry times Friday, but also some scattered showers and thunderstorms. I'm meteorologist Sherry Spearn. You can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central 830 WCRN.
Here we go again.
Hi, this is Bob Lobel. The rules governing how you can receive your Social Security pension benefits are very complex. They're so complex, in fact, that many make choices based on limited information that costs them hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost pension income. Making the choices that are best for you often requires information that most folks don't know how to access and isn't readily available from Social Security. If you or your spouse are considering filing for your Social Security pension benefits, the Visper Group, a Worcester-based Better Business Bureau A+ rated firm, offers a complimentary guide titled Informed Social Security Planning that can be an invaluable resource for you. To request your copy of the guide, go to the website informedSSplanning.com. That's informedSSplanning.com to get your copy of the guide, or call our office at 508-421-6700. 508-421-6700. That's 508-421-6700.
All right, Bob Lobel. Man, he's still around. This is the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN, and you can join the conversation for the remainder of the time that we have together, folks, at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Thanks for Phil George to calling in and sharing some of the insight there. He's a biochemist, and again, listen to him on the weekend mornings on Wellness Wave Radio. And he left with a good point. And I brought this up before. I just don't get it, because at least I know when I was, but even my, kids or kid and nieces and nephews, the nurse couldn't give you an aspirin without calling home to make sure it was okay. And then you had schools that were allowing them to leave the house dressed one way, use different pronouns at school, give them the opportunity to change and put on this persona. And I know I get a lot of feedback and static about it, but in a lot of ways, it's woman face for a lot of these kids. I mean, we don't tolerate it for other things to pretend it, but they're putting on the trappings and drapings that they think is what a female is, and that then makes them a female, but it doesn't, of course. And that's when the conversation gets real, when you ask them to define a woman. And I mean, the moment they say, well, we have dresses and this, so it's a costume. And I have a real problem with that we're doing and allowing all of this to happen for what somebody might view as just dressing pretty. And going back to this shooter who had a lot of issues, he talked about this in the video, which the FBI took down, in the manifesto, that some days I don't feel like dressing pretty. So he's reduced the transgenderism to dressing, the outfit that he was wearing. That should concern you if it doesn't. Miranda Devine has an op-ed in the New York Post. I like her. I like her stuff. She wrote The Laptop from Hell on the Hunter Biden laptop, and she's quite good on this stuff, and she's on top of this. And it does seem like Minnesota has a lot of stuff. I mean, Walz is just a horrible governor, and I'm not quite sure he's a good person, especially now that he's out there with this rhetoric. But she makes a great point in this op-ed. It's worth a read. The ground zero for disorder. Minneapolis is the epicenter of the defund the police movement. That's true. And declared trans sanctuary state. Now, Worcester did that a few months ago. Didn't Worcester have a vote to declare Worcester a sanctuary city for transgender people? Which it didn't make sense to me. And please, if it makes sense to you, and you want to articulate why that makes perfect sense, 508-871-7000. Explain it to me. I didn't know that they needed, the transgender people needed a sanctuary city, that there was an orchestrated hunt for them or something. There's none that I know of. So what is it, the actual, again, it's just another declaration with no real meaning, which is fine. We do stuff like that all the time, I guess. Like there's no mechanism that you can kick in to become a sanctuary state or sanctuary city for illegals. You can't pick and choose federal laws that you like and don't like. If you want to change it, run for office and change it, or propose a bill and push it through. Now, the Annunciation Catholic Church massacre highlights the cost of unchecked social disorder. And this is her point in the op-ed. And when you have Democratic leaders like Governor Walz, A.G. Ellison, Mayor Frey, what did they do? They immediately blamed the guns, despite Minnesota's already strict gun laws. Another state, with Massachusetts, we have very strict gun laws in the Commonwealth. and red flag laws like Minnesota. Instead of addressing ideological and cultural factors that are play here, officials deflect that responsibility. So the shooter, Robert Westman, born Robert Westman, 17, mom okay, to change the name to Robin, which is one of those, can be a male or female names, right? Wasn't there that skit? I think it was Saturday Night Live used to do Pat, and you couldn't tell was Pat a man or female, male, what was it? But anyway, Westman left a manifesto filled with this anti-Christian, anti-Jewish hate, adorned with the pride flags. And I know this, and this is something in the LGBTQ plus community, many of the L and the B and the G feel the T should not be part of that alphabet. That it's not the gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender movement. All right, it's the gay, lesbian, bisexual. Transgender is a different thing. And a lot of people in the gay community, and gay does encompass male and female, lesbian and gay, but the gay community feel that the T shouldn't be part of that. Just like a lot of people in the gay community have a problem with what they call the Philadelphia flag, which has taken the original pride flag and to Phil's reference to Harvey Milk in the movie with Sean Penn, that depicting Harvey Milk's life as the first openly gay person to be elected in the country to the board. I think they call it Board of Advisors in San Francisco. And he was assassinated. Actually, 2 people were assassinated. We always forget the second one because high profile of Harvey Milk. But the pride flag came as a Freedom Day function or celebration in San Francisco. He went to his buddy, Baker. He said, we really got to come up with a symbol for the community. And that's where the 8-color pride flag was born. Baker came up with this for Harvey Milk. And the original flag had 8 colors. And when the next year, it was such a hit, the pride flag. And all these colors mean something. None of them race whatsoever. They mean earth and spirit and love. Those are the colors. Nothing to do with race whatsoever. And from from the 70s forward, this was the symbol of acceptance and love. At least that's what we were told. Now, everybody wanted that flag for the next year's celebration, and that eventually became what is commonly known as the gay pride parades and so forth. But back then, we didn't have the technology, so they dropped 2 colors from the flag and went from an 8 to a 6-color flag. They dropped magenta and turquoise. Red, green, blue, yellow, purple is going forth with the 6 colors. And then a few years ago, somebody in Philadelphia said, oh, we got to have the brown and black stripe for black and brown people. So a lot of people in the gay community said, you just turned something racist that was never racial. It wasn't a race issue. So the Philadelphia flag is not accepted by a lot of people. But I'm getting off on this. But there was a lot of hate there, and the pride flags on there. Now, FBI Director Kash Patel classified the attack as domestic terrorism and a hate crime targeting Catholics. And I think rightly so. Yet you got state leaders continue promoting radical gender policies and silencing any dissent on this. So, again, pay attention to what the issue is. Stop with the deflecting. Divine makes a lot of good points in this op-ed. I want to remind you, folks, that we are streaming live, but you can also join the conversation live at 508-871-7000. Let's go to the phones. Mark's waiting patiently. Hey, Mark, what say you?
Yeah, like I was saying yesterday for the New York Post, I guess this guy, they.
Robin or Robert, yeah.
Yeah, whatever, like flip a coin. We'll call it they. They said on that they were self-declared in transition. That's Robert Williams. He said that on the YouTube. You know, the postings have been taken down, but you know, the New York Post, you know, they're right on the ball, and they downloaded everything before YouTube could yank all this stuff down. Why YouTube did that? Who knows? Who knows?
Actually, the FBI did it.
Well, YouTube, it was on YouTube.
Yeah.
He posted this stuff on YouTube, and now it's not on YouTube. So the end result is it's no longer on YouTube, right?
Correct.
Right. All right. So, anyways, this kid, whatever he's transitioning from or transitioning to, I don't know. I mean, he doesn't even. When the police report said it was a 22-year-old male, and this guy self-identifies as a female. I mean, come on, man. And you're going to sell this guy a gun, and he don't even know if he's a boy or a girl. The police report says he's a boy. I mean, come on, man. I mean, you got to draw the line somewhere here with this stuff. Or this type of stuff is just going to continue.
I see. All right, Mark. Good point. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. So, Robin or Robert is actually 23 years old. And yes, he had this bizarre stuff on YouTube. It was the FBI who took it down. And yes, again, a couple days ago, I wouldn't have gone along with a suggestion that it has to do with trans. But now statistically looking at this, when something is so overwhelming, you can't ignore it anymore. You have to say, is there something to this? Is there something to this? Are we causing a certain chemical reaction by inserting hormones into the developmental stages of a person? I don't know. It's got to be studied. Now, you know, Mark and everyone else, that if there was an attempt to say transgender people are not allowed to get permits to carry, there would be a lawsuit filed faster than you could finish saying those words, and probably rightly so. But we got to look at the chemical treatment. But we have to take the third and final break here on the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. 508-871-7000. Back in 2 minutes and 2 seconds, folks. Stick with us.
Perner Logging and Land Clearing, fully equipped with state-of-the-art equipment to handle all of your lot and land clearing needs, whether it's 1 acre or 100. They regularly service customers in the local area and will travel to neighboring communities and beyond to get the job done. Now, whether you're doing new construction, renovations, or clearing land for a new development, the Perner Logging and Land Clearing team of experienced personnel makes small or large jobs run efficiently, giving them the ability to always keep the competitive edge. They'll quote your job from something small to hundreds of acres, factoring in all aspects, including the wood salvage value, if any. In addition, they have the right equipment for each size job, making for the most efficient job site possible. For every job, Perner Logging and Land Clearing makes sure the client's goals are the main objective. Call Perner Logging and Land Clearing today for a free estimate, 978-270-9916. That's 978-270-9916.
Are you looking for a holistic approach to your health? One that supports your body's natural ability to regulate, adapt, regenerate, and heal. Look no further. The Bioregulatory Medical Institute, BRMI, a nonprofit global organization dedicated to advancing the science and art of bioregulatory medicine, welcomes you to their free and rich library of resources. You'll find articles, podcasts, videos, and more at brmi.online. BRMI believes health freedom is a basic human right, honoring medical ethics and the innate intelligence of the human body. When your body is properly supported, it will thrive. If you're looking for the root cause of illness, physical, emotional, or spiritual, visit brmi.online. brmi.online.
All right, folks, welcome back here to the fourth final segment on the Thursday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. At the end of the show, I'm out, and the Carr brothers are in tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and Frankie Boy is up right after me here on AM 830 WCRN, and I hope you have some great plans for Labor Day weekend and the end of the summer, which just disappeared on me. I just can't believe how fast the summer has moved by us. But Miranda Devine's op-ed in the New York Post, she really drew a lot of good points, and I think it's worth a read. And she points out that they really lost the plot in Minnesota. Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, she actually flaunted a Protect Trans Kids shirt with a hunting knife design on it. What is that messaging supposed to be saying? Again, and I'm not saying that transgender and gay youth don't get harassed. Nowhere near they did in my generation in school by any means and before me. But I just, what are you saying with the knife design on it? And the mayor, Frey, mocked prayer for the victims, even though children were praying when they were killed. Why does the left seem to have a problem with Christianity? God help you if you say anything against another religion, except for you Christians and Jews, I guess you're allowed to hate on. Certainly not Muslims. And Ellison bragged about suing Trump, bragged about it, for gender affirming care at a DNC event just days before the shooting. And look at their legacy of the riots, right? Walsh, Frey, Ellison, they totally enabled the BLM and Antifa riots 5 years ago. Walsh, right, delayed the guard. Remember, that's where they surrendered the police station? When they were attacking the police station and the order was given, abandon it and let them have it, and the police had to leave and watch them burn the station? And they were all scapegoating the Trump supporters. In the Minneapolis police force, they gutted that, 900 down to just 350 street cops. Disorder continues unchecked. The massacre was the fourth shooting in Minneapolis within 24 hours. Just like in Chicago, unless you go look at it, or a show like mine points it out, you don't know there's 12, 15, 18 shootings in Chicago and 4 or 5 shootings in Minneapolis every weekend. Biden dismantled Trump-era border protections, leaving communities less safe. Democrats polarized equity. Be careful of those words. It's equity. I didn't say equality. Equity. And climate over basic law and order. And just to be clear, equality is everybody has this level playing field, same conditions, and you get where your abilities and your drive and your dedication takes you. Equity is saying no matter what your dedication, your drive, your effort is, you're all going to have the same thing. By definition, that doesn't sound fair, does it? And then this violence interpreters. Have you heard this term they've used? And social workers. They want violence interpreters and social workers to replace actual policing. And you're going to get very predictable results, aren't you? And then we look at Trump's crackdown in D.C. He proved crime can be curbed with enforcement, including a nearly 2-week homicide-free streak in Washington, D.C., one of the murder capitals of the world. We're talking third world, not country. Some of these cities in our country have murder rates equal to or worse than some other places that we would call third world countries. So that means that lives were saved. And the lives saved, by the way, were disproportionately young black men, undercutting the Democrats' BLM rhetoric. Because when you do look at it and you drill down, it is mostly black on black crime. And although the percentage of blacks in the population, the percentage of crime where they're both perpetrators and victims far outweighs the percentage of the population. So the question has to be, do Democrat leaders actually want solutions, or do they want profit or to profit politically from chaos? As crime surges in places like Minneapolis and Chicago, the victims, children, families, the poor, they pay the price. And they pay these prices that are very dearly paid. Very dearly paid. Bonchi and Red State, good publication. Tom Donaldson, a senior fellow with me. He's on the weekly report, and he's also a fellow with the Frontiers of Freedom, as I am. He has an op-ed, too, in Red State this week, too. Democrats' responses to the Minnesota trans shooter are the most evil and depraved I've ever seen. Another read worth taking a look at. And he describes the reactions from the Democratic officials, again, Frey, and even getting into Jen Psaki and others, as evil and depraved. And Jen Psaki she was in a pretzel trying to twist this story, blame the guns, and take it off the issue at hand. But he describes the reactions from these people as evil and depraved, arguing that they insult faith by dismissing prayer as insufficient, especially when victims are Christians who are actively praying. And that was pretty gross to watch, just almost just mocking the fact that they were praying and that the community was asking for prayers. Now he goes on and says thoughts and prayers as a sincerely held expression of comfort and faith is legit. And millions, if not billions, of people find comfort and solace in prayer, whether they are doing the prayer or they know that you hold them in their prayers. So criticizing it, especially immediately after the shooting, that's just perceived as a direct affront to Christian beliefs and just in religious practice in general. He goes on to frame Democrats, the responses, as demonstrating cultural hostility, suggesting they appear to elevate the rights of the trans community above Christian grieving families, and thereby diminishes the legitimacy of the religion. And of course, he dismisses gun control solutions as ineffective and labels them virtual signal. He says they failed to address the core issue. Agree with that. We have a Second Amendment. We have actually more guns than citizens in the country and billions of rounds of ammunition out there. That's a genie never being put back in a bottle, folks. And he refers to Westman here, Robin or Robert, in his mental illness. Now, the shooter's transgender identity, it's used provocatively in this op-ed, right? And he does it to cast Democrats as defending the trans community, even when the individual committed the violence. The individual did, folks. This framing is intended to invoke strong emotional reactions in us. But Red State and New York Post, Linda Devine, worth the reads. It really is. Now, we only got a couple of minutes here, but watching the new DNC chair and all these other Democratic talking heads talking about bringing, the knife to the gunfight or bringing the knife to the word fight, and the hypocrisy of playing, not playing by the rules or being the only side of the aisle that plays by the rules is absolutely ridiculous. If you go to joemangiashow.com, I did an essay about this that just, I don't have time to read it and go over it on the show, but it's become a familiar refrain, right, for Democrats. We cannot be the only party that plays by the rules anymore. Really? This cry, echoed by, again, Chairman Ken Martin, suggests this newfound commitment for fair play. When did this happen? Let's reflect on the history of the party's actions, right? For years, Democrats have manipulated the system to their advantage. They've gerrymandered districts to ensure electoral dominance, circumvented constitutional voting laws during COVID-19 pandemic, right? Opposed common sense measures like voter ID. They've installed a vice president with questionable qualifications and hidden the cognitive decline of a sitting president. And now they claim to be champions of fair play. Democrats have long engaged, as I said, in the gerrymandering practice of drawing electoral district boundaries to favor their party. And this manipulation dilutes the voting power or opposition parties and undermines democratic process. What they did with COVID-19, the rules there, mail-in ballots without post dates, going for days after voting day. In Georgia, the Election Integrity Act of 2021 was introduced to overhaul the state's election laws, including measures like requiring voter ID for absentee ballots, limiting the use of ballot drop boxes, which were the stupidest idea. But unfortunately, we're against the clock, folks, and I got to wrap up the Thursday edition, which wraps up for the week for me. But enjoy tomorrow. The Carr Brothers will be in. Frankie Boyer's up next. Have a fantastic Labor Day weekend. Can't believe the summer is done already, but it happens. Follow me on my social media platforms at Joe Mangie Show. Also, check out joemangieshow.com for shows, blogs, essays, the TOFI, which is today's observation for you. That's it, folks. Joe out.